his first guest for his first episode of It Needed to Be Said was his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. And again, not exactly a tough get. I mean, it's not like getting Marlon Brando. It would be very hard to get Marlon Brando right now. I would be very impressed if anybody could get Marlon Brando now. But back in the day, like, that was the white whale. That was the guy that, never talked to anybody. That was an exclusive. It's not an exclusive if you call up your agent and say, hey, I'm doing this podcast. I need a guest. I couldn't get anybody. Will you do it? So Drew Rosenhaus driving in his car with his family in the car. I assume he wasn't holding his phone. He had one of those things where it, like, sticks on the windshield. But he visited the podcast for a while, and they talked about the circumstances resulting in Tyreek Hill being traded from the Chiefs. Now, we'd been led to believe, let's set the table, that it was just a very basic business decision. Nothing personal. Tyreek Hill wanted top of market. The Chiefs decided, instead of paying him top of market, because we've got Patrick Mahomes top of market, and, we're trying to hold this thing together. Hey, nothing personal. We'll just take the draft picks, and he'll go somewhere else where he gets top of market. It became clear that there was something more to the story than that. Here's Drew Rosenhaus and Tyreek Hill from episode 1, season 1 of It Needed to Be Said on other concerns about Hill's relationship with the Chiefs.
There was a lot of times during the year that we felt that Tyreek was underutilized and wasn't fully appreciated. That really weren't taking full advantage of all of his ability and talent. But Tyreek's a trooper. He never made a peep about it. He
never went to the media, by the way. If teams are going to give us favorable one-on-one matches against their best corner, I don't see why teams don't utilize their best receiver. Right. And that's where, like, probably me and the Chiefs fell apart right there, when I'm like, yo, like, I don't mean to talk or be a diva in some situations, but hey, can I see the pill sometimes, please?
Yeah, just give me the ball.
Just give me the ball, please.
We had a little jump cut in there. That wasn't a straight continuous discussion. It was two separate parts that were spliced together, but it's still, in context, that's what was said. And he specifically made it clear, Miles, that it started after the game against Baltimore. That was only week 2. Week 1, he had 11 catches for 197 yards on 15 targets in a 33-29 win over the Browns. Week 2, at Baltimore, Sunday night game, 36-35 loss, targeted 4 times, 3 catches for 14 yards. That's when he started complaining to Drew Rosenhaus, and the complaints lasted all year long. How are they using me? They're not using me. I'm not being selfish. I'm not being a diva, but I'm this ultimate weapon. You want to win football games, you need to use me. So that mindset was the foundation for the contract talks that happened after the season.
Right. But, if we're going to talk about things that needed to be said, it's kind of like, well, don't we all remember the context of what was going on there? And we're like, oh my gosh, is the Chiefs offense broken? Is it this? Is it that? Teams were utilizing 2 high safeties. They were taking things away from that offense. And so as the season goes on, the Chiefs adjust. And at the end of the day, Tyreek Hill was targeted 159 times. He had 111 catches. This was 7th in the league with that, right? He had 10 games with at least 10 targets. Look at the list of people who were targeted the most in the NFL, as you can see it right there. Tyreek Hill's behind only Cooper Kupp, who had one of the most outstanding seasons a receiver could ever have. Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, and DJ Moore. That's the list. So I'm like, I understand what he's saying in some way. Like, yeah, give me the rock, give me the rock, give me this, give me that. But, like, I feel like there's a lot more context to it than just, hey, get me the ball. I mean, if you look at that game that they had against the LA Chargers that they lost at home, Tyreek Hill was targeted with the ball, but he drops one and it ends up as an interception. So, you're taking away one of your opportunities right there to make a play by not making a play when the ball's right at you. There's just context missing to a lot of this, I feel like.
And let's put the graphic back up, because there's an important bit of context that really didn't come through in his complaints either. see all the guys ahead of him and even the guys behind him. Now, Keenan Allen's had Mike Williams. And look at Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown, right? They were both targeted a lot of times on the same team. Tyreek Hill has Travis Kelce eaten out of the same trough. He was targeted 134 times. Mm-hmm. So when you have Travis Kelce on your team, it makes it harder to be the guy who is the focal point of the passing game. And there was a symbiosis there, at least we thought there was, where it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Travis Kelce, it's Tyreek Hill. And as long as those three guys are healthy and effective, it's a great trio to make a passing game go. And it had created a lot of frustration for the Chiefs because how is there not a number 2 receiver that is flourishing amid the fact that all the attention goes to Hill and Kelce?
Right.
And Hill still got all those targets, even though everybody knew you need to give extra attention to Tyreek Hill because he is so dangerous. But the frustration began with that Baltimore loss, and he had other games where if you just look at the basic end result, 5 catches, 7 catches, 6, 4, 2 against the Denver Broncos in a 22-9 win, 2 against the Steelers in a 36-10 win. So I don't know if he wanted to have a Cooper Kupp type season where at the end of the day he's challenging Calvin Johnson for the reception and receiving yardage record. And maybe every week we're hearing about Cooper Kupp chasing Calvin Johnson, and Tyreek Hill's thinking, well, hell, I could do that too if they would just throw me the ball more often, if they would make me the focal point of the offense. And not just not just long pass, give me the ball in space and off I go. He made that comment. We may be playing that as part of what's coming up, or just get me the ball and I'll take it because they can't touch me. They can't catch me. I'm gone. So, but it does give us an idea about why it all fell apart, because Tyreek Hill wanted to be paid and used like the top receiver in the sport. He didn't think he was being used that way. So when it was time to be paid, it's kind of like a little of the Russell Wilson dynamic. Like the Seahawks didn't use Russell Wilson like a Patrick Mahomes, so why are you going to pay him like a Patrick Mahomes? How do you sustain it in Seattle? And I think that's one of the big reasons why they traded him to Denver. With Tyreek Hill, it was very simple. You're not using me the way that I think you should. So now it's time to pay me the way that I think you should. Oh, now you don't want to pay me the way that I think you should. Well, if they're not going to use him the way that he believes he should be used, then it doesn't surprise me that they're not paying him, even though they still were using him like an elite receiver. That's where the logic starts to fall apart, where I feel like I am spinning around like my dog chasing its tail.
Yeah, that's the whole thing where it's kind of like, I mean, he mentioned this at one point, like, oh, they're going to use me all over the field, and talking about Miami. And it's like, wait a minute, like the Chiefs did that. I'm not here to like say like, oh my gosh, Andy Reid only thought of Tyreek Hill as a deep, like, no,
right.
We know that that's not true. I mean, there are many clips of Tyreek Hill getting intermediate routes, short routes, and taking it. Think about how he would come out of the backfield sometimes. They would have him in motion, and then either Patrick Mahomes is going to fake it to somebody, and then he's going to throw it to Tyreek Hill, or maybe he's faking it to Tyreek Hill on the bubble screen and then going somewhere else. Tyreek Hill's been utilized all over the field. And think about what he did against Buffalo in that playoff game, where he takes that one pass, and I mean, I think he even mentioned it in the podcast, right, where he goes 70. And he's saying that basically in the context of Tua Tagovailoa. But that's something that Patrick Mahomes did with the Chiefs, right? Think about that drive that they had with 13 seconds. That's an intermediate route that he caught on that one in order to get the Chiefs down the field a little bit more. We can say that, like, yeah, Tyreek Hill can have all the feelings he wants, but at the same time, it's not like the Chiefs didn't utilize him as a strong receiving threat on basically every single play. And one of their philosophies has been like, look, it could be Tyreek Hill, it could be Travis Kelce, maybe one day it's DeMarcus Robinson, it could be Mecole Hardman. We have a lot of different weapons. It usually ended up being Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce having the big game, but like it's going to be different now that he's not there. But the whole thing of like, oh my gosh, the Chiefs didn't use me, like blah, blah, blah. Like that's that's not really how they were going to win. There was a reason why they went 12-5. There's a reason why they hosted the last 4 AFC championship games. Like, they're more balanced than that.
And they're trying to be more balanced than that, but you still need to have that weapon that the opposing defenses will game plan against, and they don't have that now. They may develop it in Sky Moore. They may develop it in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Who knows? Or maybe it really is just going to be, instead of 2 guys that are legitimate weapons, you've got Kelsey Still and Sky Moore and MVS and Juju Smith-Schuster, and it is more of a revolving door. But the problem is, if you don't have that one receiver, that game breaker that draws extra attention, the other guys have to work harder to get open. And Patrick Mahomes has to work harder to identify on every given play who's got the favorable matchup. Pre-snap, post-snap, while he's running around, who really is open, instead of, I know Tyreek Hill's just going to go get the ball. I know he's going to find a way to get open, even if he's got extra defender over the top that he just runs by along with everyone else. All right, so after the season, and let's rewind. We're getting into the early stages of the offseason. Super Bowl has come and gone. We're in the contract renegotiation phase where some guys who are due to become free agents get new contracts, or guys who are a year away start getting their contracts. And it looked like that's what the Chiefs were doing. There was reporting from NFL media that the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill talking about a new contract. And it was a Saturday night, I think in early March. It may have been right after the Davante Adams trade, because the Davante Adams trade was obviously a major catalyst for what the Chiefs and Tyreek Hill ultimately chose to do. Tyreek Hill had a tweet that Shireen sent it to me and said, it kind of feels like he's saying goodbye to Kansas City. And I pride myself on having good instincts most of the time, but I was like, yeah, nah, that's not what this said. Nah, they're working out a new contract. And that was all we had heard at the time. And look, that's a testament to how quiet they kept it all. Think about that. There's some real dysfunction going on between Tyreek Hill and the Chiefs. Drew Rosenhaus was a master at keeping that from exploding or imploding, or whichever the right ploding is. Either of the plodings, ploding is always bad, X or M. He kept it from happening, which is very impressive when you consider what was really happening behind the curtain. Here's Rosenhaus and Hill from Season 1, Episode 1 of It Needed to Be Said, talking about the negotiations with the Chiefs and how that Davante Adams deal was a catalyst for change.
Adams got the huge deal. I spoke to Tyreek, and we both agreed that we were going to put the pressure on the Chiefs, that they were either going to do a deal like that or it wasn't a great fit anymore, because the respect isn't mutual if you don't see it that way. And I talked to Brett Veach, the team GM, and I outlined the deal that Adams got, and that it should be a no-brainer for them to do that deal for us.
Right.
And if they didn't want to do that type of deal, then we would get them a blockbuster trade. I flat out told them that I felt like I could talk to teams around the league and bring great compensation.
Crazy part is, I talked to Patrick Mahomes. I talked to Andy Reid, right? For 30 minutes, for like 30 minutes or so. Right. I talked to both of them on the phone. I'm like, hey, coach, like, I don't even got to be the highest paid for real. Right. I just want to be put in like a realistic position that's like realistic for me and my family, right?
You want to be compensated for your talent.
Exactly. I don't got to get 30 million. I at least give me 25, right? 26, right? You know, they wouldn't even giving.
So completely ignore the fact that you're taking 2 and 3 defenders across the field to make way for Kelsey to have these historical numbers.
Completely, man. It's crazy how the business works, man. But like I say, I tried my best. I talked to the big man, Andy Reid. Right. I talked to the quarterback. I'm like, look, can we make something happen? Right. Can we make something happen? Can the guarantee money make sense to me? Right. Can it make sense to my family, please?
There's plenty there to unpack, as they say. That's not as cool as saying someone's on assignment, but I like saying there's a lot there to unpack. First of all, and hey, it needed to be said, so it needs to be said. He didn't need to be the highest paid player at his position. But you know what? at least 3 or 4 times, Drew Rosenhaus mentions $30 million a year. It's not a $30 million a year contract. There's BS on the back end to get the average up to $30 million. It is not a $30 million a year deal. It just isn't, because by the time he gets to the balloon payment the last year, that deal is going to be ripped up and replaced, or he's going to be gone, or whatever. There's a huge back end number that gets him to the $30 million per year average. He wanted to get to 30. He doesn't want to trumpet it in this context. That's fine. But they wanted to get to 30. And they also said, Rosenhaus said, he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. No, Aaron Donald is. It's established. He has a real 30-plus million per year over the next 3 years. Aaron Donald is the highest paid non-quarterback in football ever, not Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's at about $27 million, right, which he said he would have been fine with from the Chiefs. The bottom line is they went to the Chiefs saying, just give us the Davante Adams deal. The Raiders had to give up first-round pick plus before they even had the ability to give Davante Adams his contract. Chiefs could do it without giving up anything. Here he is. Just give him that deal. And it would have been done, and it would have been fine, so they say. But the Chiefs wouldn't even get there. Chances are if the Chiefs would have got there, Drew would have tried to get a little bit more. That's what he's doing. And I always say, get the most you can.
Yeah.
Get the most you can. For the players, too. Yeah, and I understand you don't want to come off as greedy or selfish. A lot of people are struggling now, and gas is expensive, and the economy's tough. I get it. But for the players, get what you can, because the owners are doing well, too. And they get half of the revenues and all of the equity. So get what you can and don't apologize for it. But I can understand from a PR standpoint, it looks unseemly if you're saying, I really wanted 30, but I would have settled for 25. But regardless, the Chiefs just didn't want to go there. And the Chiefs looked at it as a very simple, this is where it became a business proposition. We have 2 choices. One, we can pay this guy this huge amount of money that he wants, when we've already been dealing with him being kind of a diva all year long, complaining about the games when he doesn't get the ball enough. See, that's the subtext from the Chiefs' perspective that they're considering. This guy's kind of become a pain in our ass this year, complaining internally. We don't really like that, so we can pay him a lot of money for more of the same, or we can take 5 draft picks, save all that cap space, and try to do our passing game a bit of a different way, where we don't have this guy who's wearing us out when he's not getting the ball thrown his way. We got to let Patrick Mahomes be the captain of this ship, not Tyreek Hill, and so they made that philosophical decision, and that's why I was amazed that this was all so low stress, very clean, simple, it's only business, nothing personal. Obviously, there was some personal behind it. They did a good job of keeping hidden until June the 10th.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.